Hey everyone. Yeah, I thought I'd do this one last video before I get ready to head out to work. You know, you know what's funny, folks? This is not, and it says it right there. The Silver Story Arc, the Sonic Universe Silver Age Silver Story Arc, or basically the SU Silver Age Story Arc, is not the first time that Archie Comics has done something like this. Not particularly. You see, in case some of you don't know and haven't been following, according to the solicits for the next Sonic Universe issue, which comes out next month, and begins the Silver Age story arc, this story arc, which reintroduces us to Professor Von Schrimmer, or whatever his name is, from a more revamped series, a more revamped, I guess you could say grittier, basically a more revamped, almost Sat AM-like reboot of the character from Adventures, as well as it introduces us to a new character called Gold, or Golden, or Goldie, whatever her name is. And what's funny about this story arc is, yes, it's a new story arc. It's a new silver story arc. But it's a prelude or prologue to the Worlds Unite crossover. That's right. This story arc takes place before this whole freaking crossover. So unless this was planned to coincide with the graphic novel release, or the graphic novel releases of this crossover, if that's what this was to coincide with, then okay, I can understand it from there. But if this was to coincide with the crossover as we speak, then someone surely messed up behind the scenes. Let me explain. You see, basically this story arc that starts next month is supposed to take place before the Worlds Unite crossover. It's supposed to take place before Silver's involvement in the Worlds Unite battle books. It's supposed to take place before that free comic book day issue of Sonic the Hedgehog and Mega Man, which were prologues or preludes themselves to Worlds Unite. And this is supposed to take place before the Sonic Universe issue 75. So apparently someone upstairs at Archie Comics messed up big time with the scheduling, in my opinion. Now, one might come out here and say, well, Archie Comics didn't really have no choice. Ian Flynn didn't have no choice. They were rushed into putting the crossover out as soon as possible. You know, they probably had to postpone the Silver Arc until later because of this. And if that's the case, then that proves one thing. Sega and Capcom need to keep their noses out of Archie's business and let them do what they gotta do. Yes, they have the licenses to Mega Man and Sonic to publish comic books and stories within those comic books. But it's another thing, if you will, to publish those said comic books, have them cross over during the summer, and yet have a story arc that's going to have some kind of connection to it take place afterwards? Doesn't make sense. But you know, it doesn't really surprise me. It doesn't really surprise me at all, because let's go back Let's go back. Let's go back 74 issues ago. 74 issues ago in the Sonic the Hedgehog main comic was the beginning of the Iron Dominion. Fast forward 6 issues later. Fast forward 6 issues later to 207 in the ending there. All right? That made people think Sonic and Sally were done, right? But to me, as I mentioned in a previous video, in a more recent previous video, that was just something that was very similar to what you would see a Zach Morris go through in the Saved by the Bell Hawaiian Style movie and the Saved by the Bell Summer Job episodes. But moving forward to about 2-3 issues later, to about issue 209-210. All right? To around that vicinity. 210, 211, whatever you call it. Let's fast forward to 209 and 210 and 211. Those literally being 66, 65, and 64 issues ago. Now, why do I bring this up? Because at this time, at the end of one of them, I think it might have been 209 or 210, the ending of that issue led us into Journey to the East saga in Sonic Universe Part 1, which was a 4-month arc, 4-part story arc, 4-month arc, if you will, that continued on 2 months later, 2 issues later, or should I say continued on a month or two, continued on 2 to 3 months later or after the Iron Dominion arc ended in the main comic. So this is not the first time Archie Comics has messed up on the timeline. It isn't. Now, some might say that did this mean Spark of Life was supposed to come afterwards? Was Champion supposed to come afterwards? I couldn't really say. I would say Champions was meant to come out when it did, but I think Spark of Life in the universe may have been more conceded as to being maybe between that time as well, but also at the same time possibly was going to come out after the crossover. But it didn't. Instead, it came out when it did, and did a decent good job of coinciding with several of the story arcs. But, with that said though, even Spark of Life had that problem because you had Tails in 2 stories at once. One in universe that took place time-wise maybe a month or a week or 2 before the Champions arc in the story's time period or timeline. So basically, this is not the first. So basically, overall, this is not the first time Archie Comics has done this. Now, one could excuse the fact that they would start a spin-off arc or a prelude arc or whatever it is right at the beginning of maybe said arc in the main comic, or maybe right in the middle of it or whatever. One could say that. And one can excuse that. But one could not excuse doing a prelude story arc or prologue prelude story arc right after the freaking crossover that it's supposed to lead into. That doesn't make any sense. And anybody watching this video knows that's true. It doesn't make any sense. You know, and the same goes, again, when you look at the Worlds Unite battles. I think those would have been I think those are okay books, but would have been better off if they were released at a period of time during the crossover where they actually connected time-wise. But they didn't do that. overall, what we have here is a miscommunication and a screw-up over at Archie Comics. And this further does cement the fact. This further does cement the fact of what some people have been saying about Worlds Unite. And I'm starting to believe it myself. Even though I look at it and I'm okay with the crossover, I think it's picking up a little bit, trying to at least. But I think a lot of people were right off the bat about this. That this was nothing more than a cash cow by Archie, Sega, and Capcom, because behind the scenes, financially, they may look like they're doing good, but in reality they aren't. And this cash cow, as some would put it, is the reason why they put it out so quickly without proper planning. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, what does Archie and what does Archie Comics expect to happen? Huh? People to read the Silver story arc and then read the graphic novels based on, the graphic novels that take 4 of the issues each and put them on to... It doesn't work that way. If you're going to do something like a prologue, prelude story arc that's going to lead into this, then you do it before you do the crossover, not afterwards. So, those are just my thoughts on it. Again, it's not the first time this has happened. Take a look at Journey to the East and it's how it lines up with the Iron Dominion arc, and you got your answer there. I know people will use other examples from comic books that have done the same thing, but again, it doesn't matter what medium it is, what comic book publisher it is. Something like this is not excusable. I mean, you could have something like this happen in the middle of the story arc that it's supposed to lead into, or extend from, or whatever, but not at the end of it, because it doesn't make sense. And again, this further cements the fact that there's a possibility that what a lot of people feared is true, and that this crossover, as good as it might be in the eyes of some, as mixed as it might be in the eyes of some, and as bad as it might be in the eyes of some, that overall this crossover was nothing more than a cash cow. A cash cow by Archie, and most importantly Sega and Capcom, because like I've said before, and I know people will agree with this, behind the scenes financially, they're not doing so well, even though in front of the cameras, it may seem like they are. So, let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like, and I'm out.